Hello, my friend. It is good to see you again. Welcome to the English background. Take a slow breath. Find a quiet place, a comfortable chair, a warm cup, a window with light. We are here together now. There is no hurry. Today we have a story not about one person, but about one game. The game is football. You probably watch it. Maybe you play it. Today it has rules, fields, and judges. But for 700 years, this same game had no rules at all. People broke bones. Kings tried to stop it. And in one quiet pub in London, 11 men changed it forever. We will tell the story slowly, in simple English, word by word. Let the story come to you. In 1314, the King of England wrote a letter. He told the people of London to stop playing one game. The game was loud. The game was wild. People broke bones. People broke windows. Sometimes, people even died. The king's name was Edward II. He was a young king. London was his city. And one game was making it very hard to keep his city quiet. The king said, "Stop." But the game did not stop. It kept going for another 500 years. Other kings came after Edward. They wrote new letters. They wrote new laws. More than 30 laws in 350 years. The game still did not stop. Today, this game is the most popular game in the world. 3 billion people watch it. Boys and girls play it in every country. There are rules now. There are judges. There are clean white lines on the grass. But 700 years ago, in the streets of London, there were no rules and no lines. There was only a small ball, hundreds of angry players, and one very tired king. So what was this game? Why was it so wild? And why could no king stop it? To understand the king's letter, we need to walk into the streets of old London. Picture a small English town 700 years ago. The streets were made of dirt. The houses were made of wood. The shops had small open windows. Now picture a ball in the middle of the street. The ball was not made of leather. It was not made of plastic. It was made from the inside of a pig. It was a small bag from the pig's body. The men cleaned it and filled it with air. They called it the bladder. It was light. It was round. It moved when you kicked it. There were no two teams of 11. There could be 50 players. There could be 100. Sometimes there were 500. Every man and boy from one village against every man and boy from the next. There were no rules. Players kicked the ball. They picked it up. They threw it. They sat on it. They fought for it. There was no judge. There was no whistle. There were no lines on the ground. The field was the whole town. Players ran into shops. They ran into churches. They ran into rivers. Old papers tell us that men broke their legs, broke their arms, broke their heads. Some old papers say that people died, right there, in the street, in the middle of the game. This was football in the year 1300. People in England played it for many years before the king wrote his letter. But who was the very first person to write about it? The first man to write about this game was a London priest. His name was William FitzStephen. He lived a very long time ago, about 1175, more than 800 years before today. He worked in the city of London. He knew the streets. He knew the people. One day, William wrote a long paper about his city. He wanted to tell the world how good London was. He wrote about the markets. He wrote about the rivers. He wrote about the cooks who sold hot food on every street. And then he wrote about one special day in the year. The day was called Shrovetide. It came once a year, just before Easter. On Shrove Tuesday, William said, the boys of London came out into the open fields. They brought a ball. He wrote that the older men of the city, the fathers, the rich men, also came out. They watched. They cheered. They remembered the games of their own young days. William's words were not angry. He liked the game. He thought it was a good thing for a city. But other people did not see it the way William did. As the years went on, the crowds got bigger. The fights got bigger. And the people who did not like football began to write very different papers. The biggest of those papers was written by a king. By the year 1300, the game had a problem, or maybe it was the towns that had the problem. Football was loud, it was rough. Workers stopped working to play. Soldiers stopped training. Shops were broken. Sometimes the whole town was busy with one big match all day long. The kings of England did not like this. They needed strong soldiers. They needed quiet streets. They needed money from busy shops, not broken windows. So in 1314, King Edward II wrote his letter. He said the game must stop in London. Anyone who played would go to prison. But the game did not stop. So the next king tried. King Edward III said, "My soldiers should be training with bows, not playing football." He wrote a new law in 1363. The game did not stop. Other kings came. King Henry IV said no. The famous King Henry VIII said no. Even Queen Elizabeth I said no. From 1314 to 1667, more than 30 laws tried to stop football in England. Every law said the same thing. No more football. Pay a big price. Go to prison. Stop. But every spring, the boys came out. Every Shrove Tuesday, the ball came out. Every village, every town, every street. If the kings of England could not stop this game, then who in the world could? To understand why the game would not die, we need to leave the city. We need to walk out into the green fields of old England. Picture Shrove Tuesday, 400 years ago. The men were not at work that day. The women were not in the market. Even the priest put on his old shoes. Two villages stood at two ends of the same valley. There was a river between them. There was a hill. There were fields and small woods. In the middle, somebody threw a ball into the air, and then 300 men started to run. The goal of one team was the door of their church. The other team's goal was the door of their church. The two churches were 3 miles apart. There was no field. The whole valley was the field. The river was part of the field. The woods were part of the field. The streets of the small towns were part of the field. The match started in the morning. It was still going when the sun began to fall. Men were wet. Men were bleeding. Men were laughing. The ball was somewhere in the middle of the river, with 20 hands holding onto it. This was Shrovetide football. One village against the next. One day of the year. One ball. No rules at all. And here is the strangest part. In one English town, people still play the same game today. The town is called Ashbourne. It is a small town in the center of England, in Derbyshire. Every year on Shrove Tuesday, Ashbourne becomes a small wonder. The shops on the main street put strong wood over their windows. The owners take their cars far away. The streets become empty. Then, at 2 in the afternoon, the ball comes out. It is not a small ball. It is a heavy ball, painted with bright colors, made by hand. 2 teams stand ready. They are called the Uppards and the Downards. The Uppards live north of the river. The Downards live south. The game runs for 2 days. The 2 goals are stone markers 3 miles apart. Hundreds of people play. They run through the river. They run through the fields. Sometimes the ball moves only a few meters in many hours, hidden in a great mass of arms and legs. In 1922, the king's daughter, Princess Mary, got married. The town of Ashbourne sent her a Shrovetide ball as a wedding gift. She accepted it. She liked the game. From that year, people call it the Royal Shrovetide Football. But the strange thing is this: nobody knows when the game in Ashbourne began. The old papers were lost in a fire more than 100 years ago. To this day, nobody knows the year. So how did the wild game ever become the quiet game we watch today? The story of how football got its rules begins in a strange place, the English schools. In England, in the 1800s, the rich families sent their boys to special schools. Each school was its own small world. Each school had its own way of playing football. In one school, you could pick up the ball and run with it. In another school, you could only kick it. In one school, you could push other players. In another school, you could not. In one school, the field was a small grass place. In another school, the field was a long stone road behind the building. For each boy, the rules of football were the rules of his school. He played them every day. He thought everyone played them. But then the boys grew up. They went to a bigger school. They went to the universities of Oxford and Cambridge. There, for the first time, boys from many schools were in the same place. They tried to play football together, and it was a mess. One boy picked up the ball. The other boys shouted, "No, no, you can't do that." One boy pushed his friend hard. The friend got up angry. "We don't do that here." Every match started with 1 hour of arguing about the rules. Some men in London began to think the same thing. The country needed one football with one set of rules, not 50. And in 1863, one man in London picked up his pen. His name was Ebenezer Cobb Morley. He was a lawyer in London. He was 32 years old. He loved football. Morley was the captain of a London club called the Barnes Football Club. Every weekend, he played with his friends. But after every match, he saw the same problem. The other team had different rules. The match was full of arguments. Nobody really won because nobody really agreed on what winning meant. One day, in 1863, Morley sat down at his desk. He took a pen. He wrote a letter to a popular sport newspaper called Bell's Life. In the letter, he said something simple. The football clubs of England needed one set of rules. He invited the clubs to a meeting in London. The letter was printed. Other clubs read it. Some agreed, some did not. But enough of them said yes. Morley sent more letters. He talked to club leaders in pubs. He made a small list of clubs that wanted to come. The list grew. 5 clubs, 8 clubs, 11 clubs. He chose a date. He chose a place. The date was the 26th of October, 1863. The place was a small London pub called the Freemasons Tavern on Great Queen Street. On that evening, 11 men walked into the pub. They sat down around a long table. They had paper, they had pens, and they had one very big question. What is football, really? The 11 men were leaders of football clubs from London and the area around it. They were not all friends. They did not all agree. That first evening, Morley said something simple. It was time to write down the rules of football. All of them, here, together. But the men found out very fast that they all played different games. Some wanted to kick only. Some wanted to pick the ball up and run with it. Some liked a small ball. Some liked a heavy one. The first meeting was not enough. They came back a week later, and then again. 6 times, the 11 men walked into the Freemasons Tavern. 6 times, they sat down at the same table. They argued. They wrote. They crossed things out. They wrote again. The biggest fight was about 2 things. One was using your hands. The other was hacking. Hacking was kicking the other player on the leg, hard. Some men said hacking was a normal part of football. Some said it was just hurting people. On the 6th meeting, on the 8th of December, 1863, a man called Campbell spoke. He was from a club called Blackheath. He said the new rules were too kind. He said that without hacking, the game would lose all its strong feeling. Then he stood up. He walked out of the pub. He did not come back. His club did not come back. They started a new game with their own rules. They called it Rugby. That night, in one small London pub, 2 great games of the world were born. But the new game still needed something. It needed a name. The new group was called the Football Association. Their game now had a name, Association Football. But association football is a long thing to say, especially for tired schoolboys after a match. In England in those years, students at the universities had a small game with words. They took a long word. They cut it short. They added an ER to the end. So rugby became rugger. Breakfast became brekker. And association became soccer. Some old stories say that one student, called Charles Reeford Brown, made up the word soccer first. But the word was already in print in 1885, before he even came to Oxford. So nobody really knows who said it first. We only know it was a small joke from an English school. Today, half the world uses the word soccer. Half the world says football. It is the same game. That game grew very fast. It crossed the seas. By the year 1900, men were playing it in Italy, in South America, in Africa. Today, 3 billion people watch it. But back in Ashbourne, on Shrove Tuesday, the wild old game still goes on. The shops still close. The ball still flies. The 2 villages still run. So next time you watch a football match, remember this. 2 versions of the same game live in the world today. One has 13 rules. The other has none. And that is our story for today. You listen to it in English. That is not a small thing. Every story you hear takes you one quiet step closer to the best version of yourself. The one who understands English well. The one who knows something new about the world. Take one slow breath. Stay with the story for a moment before you go back to your day. Now I have a small question for you. Did you know any of these things about football? About the king who tried to stop it? About the small English town that still plays the wild game? About the 11 men in the London pub? Tell me in the comments which thing was new for you. I will read every one. If this story helped your English today, leave a small like. It is a quiet way to say thank you to the channel. Thank you for being here today. See you in the next story, here at the English Background.